To Kill a Mockingbird, Chapter 4, Summary and Discussion. So Chapter 4 starts off with Scout talking about how school is very slow and boring to her. She's talking about how Atticus and his brother were homeschooled and they're successful and have good jobs. So she doesn't understand why she needs to go to school. She says that she used a lot of crayons and she's bored, and basically the gist of all this is she's not being challenged in school. So at this point in education, there was not this idea of differentiation. There were no honors and gifted classes. She's basically having to stay on the same page with all of her classmates, yet she's very advanced for her age, so she's bored. And then she begins talking about how she thinks that 12 years of boredom is just not what she has in mind for the rest of her education. So when we do talk about education in this sense, our society tells us that in order to be successful, you must go to college, for example, which in my opinion, is not necessarily true. I know several people who are very, very successful that graduated high school and did not go to college. And so it's just this whole idea of what society expects and what Scout is having to learn. And so then we begin moving on throughout the chapter, and she and Jim pass the Radley house, and they see tinfoil sticking out of a knothole of one of the trees. So she reaches in and she finds gum, and of course, what does Scout do? She takes the gum, puts it in her mouth, and chews it, and then Jim tells her to spit the gum out because it's from the Radley tree, and the Radley land is poisonous, because remember, the children don't even eat the pecans that fall into the schoolyard. And so they begin finding other items in the knothole of the tree too. So on the last day of school, they find 2 Indian head pennies in the knothole. And then Dill comes home for the summer. And Scout says, as we came to the live oaks at the Radley place, I raised my finger to point for the 100th time to the knothole where I had found the chewing gum, trying to make Jim believe I had found it there, and found myself pointing at another piece of tinfoil. And so here they find more items in the knothole of the tree. And so when Dill comes back, their games start up again, and then they end up coming and playing this game called the Boo Radley game. And so the Boo Radley game is where they are playing and acting out Boo Radley. And Atticus sees them playing this game, and he disagrees with it very, very much, and he tells them not to play the Boo Radley game again. And so Jim he denies the fact that they're playing the Boo Radley game. And they even take scissors and reenact the whole stabbing of Mr. Radley thing. And so at the end of this chapter, Scout talks about 2 reasons she wants to quit the Boo Radley game. It's in the very last paragraph. She says, Atticus's arrival was the second reason I wanted to quit the game. The first reason happened the day I rolled into the Radley front yard. Through all the head shaking, quelling of nausea, and Jim yelling, I had heard another sound, so low I could not have heard it from the sidewalk. Someone inside the house was laughing. And so earlier in this chapter, Scout gets into the inside of a tire, and she has rolled into the Radley yard. She hits the side of the house. Jim and Dill are yelling at her, get up, Scout, get up, you're in the Radley yard. So she freaks out, she's dizzy, and she runs off. But what she tells us is that as she hits the side of the house and falls out of the tire, she hears someone laughing inside the house, which is meant to give us this eerie, Southern Gothic feeling. And so this chapter ends in mystery, and also give you that feeling like, ooh, somebody was watching.